Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. In Joshua chapter 20, we read about the cities of refuge. And the city of refuge were places where a manslayer could go and be protected from the avenger of blood. So say an individual accidentally killed another person's brother. Maybe he was out chopping wood and the axe head flew off and hit that individual. And the avenger of blood, that is the brother who's angry that he had killed his brother, might try to pursue him and might try to take his own blood. Well, this manslayer would have an opportunity to go to the city of refuge and be protected from the manslayer. And he could abide in that city until the death of the high priest, and then he was allowed to leave the city. But it says here in Joshua chapter 20 and verse 5, it says, "Now if the avenger of blood pursues him, then they shall not deliver the manslayer into his hand, because he struck his neighbor without premeditation and did not hate him beforehand." And so because of the fact that the person was innocent in his heart, as far as not having any type of ill will towards the other individual that he accidentally killed, because he had not planned it out, because he did not hate that other person, he was to be protected by law in these cities of refuge. And so this teaches us a very interesting principle. It shows us that when it comes to guilt, it's very much important what's going on in a person's heart. In other words, you might have two individuals who killed another individual with an axe. One did it on purpose, out of anger, out of hatred. He even planned it out. The other person was just chopping wood and the axe head flew out and killed the other person. Both of them killed someone with an axe, but one is held guilty and the other one is protected. And so it shows that it does matter what goes on in the heart when a person is doing certain things. Jesus draws on this in Matthew chapter 5, where he says, you've heard it said before, you shall not kill, but I say unto you, anyone who hates his brother without cause has already committed murder in his heart. Jesus there bringing out the fact that, just because you may not have committed the act, if you would do it, if you were given the opportunity, if you have that hatred in your heart towards another individual, it's counted as though you've already done it. And he does the same thing with adultery as well. But the idea here is that what's going on in the heart really does matter. It makes a difference. And so what this ought to teach us is that we need to protect our hearts. We need to make sure that our hearts are pure and clean before the Lord, and that we keep an innocent heart before God. We might go along thinking that we're okay because outwardly we're not doing certain things. Maybe we're not engaged in certain activities that we see other people engaged in. And we might begin to think that we have it all together and that we're doing so great morally in our lives. But if we look within, we find that perhaps our hearts are full of dead men's bones, and it's full of all types of uncleanness, and full of hate and spite and anger and all other sorts of things. And if that's the case, we really have to be careful, because we have to understand that we are serving a God who not only sees what we do, but also can see what's going on in our heart. And so it's important for us to keep a pure heart before the Lord. And we can do this by washing our minds, washing our hearts with the water of the Word, getting into God's Word, replacing all that filthy stuff, all that dirty stuff, all that unpleasant stuff in our hearts, washing that all away by filling our minds with God's Word and saturating our minds and our hearts with God's Word. Doing our daily readings, but also meditating over our daily readings, maybe even reading more than just the daily portion of the reading, listening perhaps to the Bible on audio. Just getting as much of God's Word into our heart will help purify our heart. But it also takes us walking humbly before God, seeking God's forgiveness, seeking God's help, staying in a prayerful posture before the Lord, and just setting our minds on things above and setting our minds on the Spirit, as Paul talks about in Romans chapter 8. And the more and more we meditate on God's word, the more and more we're saturated with God's word, the more and more we're devoted to prayer and to worship, the less and less the evil things will begin to crop up in our hearts. And the more and more the good things of the Lord will begin to come out. And the fruits of the Spirit will then begin to be born in our lives. Love, joy, peace, and all those other things that we read about in Galatians chapter 5. So let's attend to our hearts today. Let's not be fooled in thinking just because we haven't committed certain actions that we're okay, but to really take seriously not only what's going on with our hands, but also what's going on in our hearts. And to be very attentive to the thoughts that we have, the intentions that we have, the things that go through our minds, and try to maintain a pure and clean heart before the Lord so that we can live a life more pleasing to Him. So here's some things we can reflect on and think about as we do our reading today. With that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.